Welcome to the Nurtured Nerds Epic Podcast.
Come join us and get cuddly, get gaming, get nerdy,
and get nurtured. Woohoo! All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is our Nurtured Nerds Epic Podcast, episode 24. Wow, we've been doing this a while. I've been loving it. So many great conversations, and so many more to come. This is so fun. I am Mary Sorensen, and I am currently in Boquete, Panama, but I am usually based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Panama is awesome. Check out my view here. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that because we are here to talk to our fabulous guests today. But before we do that, we're going to introduce ourselves. So I am a cuddle party facilitator and a certified cuddlist, and I've been doing cuddle work for 7 or 8 years now. And I've been doing the Nurtured Nerds podcast since the beginning, which has been awesome. I love being part of these communities that are coming together around all of these topics, and I love talking about things like this. So yes, that is me, and I am feeling pretty good today. So let's introduce our next host, Crystal.
Hello, I'm Crystal. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have been just recently certified with Cuddlist, so I'm super excited celebrating that. Mary, you look amazing. You look tan and wonderful. Yes. I'm so grateful to be here and grateful to be part of this podcast. I've been practicing professional cuddling for, I think, a little over 5 years now, or almost 5 years. And I've been doing group events certified via Cuddle Sanctuary, and I hope to actually get a cuddle party certification at some point. So I feel very grateful to be here and be part of the Nurtured Nerds today.
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. And we also have Mare with us today.
Hi, I'm Mare. I am the founder of Pasadena Healing Touch, and I'm a certified cuddlist. I've been for about 5 years now. So I'm not very skilled in the nerd dialect, like all the I'm not very good with the nurtured nerds and but the cuddling part, I definitely have that down.
I think anyone can be a nerd.
Yeah, as our founder Alyssa likes to say, everyone's a nerd about something. Maybe your is cuddling.
I'm absolutely nerd adjacent. I love my nerd.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. And before we introduce our guest, why don't you give us a summary of what we're going to do today, Mare, and then we'll tell you guys what we're drinking, and then we'll bring in our guest.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Nurtured Nerds Epic Podcast, where we bring together cuddlers, nerds, and gamers. This is episode 24. On today's episode, we'll be interviewing platonic touch therapist, creator of Tangé Wellness, and Rave dance veteran, Jasmine Siemon. We will also talk about some more nerdy things and cuddly things. We are more than just a podcast. We have a whole community, and we still have a raffle for our new members to get a chance to win a care package. Come join us and find out more about our community of nurturing and geekiness. It's free. And if you are checking us out on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. We want to hear from you.
Cool. And let's check in with what we're drinking today. This is a tradition from our host Alyssa. She likes to share her different kinds of tea. I am drinking water. It's the best. I love water. Drink your water.
Water is key. Water is super healthy. I'm totally drinking like 3 drinks as usual, but one of them is in my I Love Mom mug, my favorite.
Oh, cool.
It's a peppermint tea. Love peppermint.
Oh, you're a mom. Love it.
Mom time.
I'm also drinking water, but I want to show off my epic mug.
Ooh,
check it out.
It's humongous, by the way.
What does it say?
Snuggle season.
Snuggle season. I love it. And we have our guest today, Jasmine. What are you drinking, Jasmine? Anything fun?
Nothing fun, just a big bottle of water.
Water is fun.
I have
Come
to
on.
drink 3 of these a day, so that's what
Whoa.
I'm doing.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so much water. Cool. Jasmine, will you introduce yourself to us?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me on Nurtured Nerds today. This is such an honor. My name is Jasmine Siemon. I'm originally from California, but I've been working and living in the DC metropolitan area, and I'm a platonic touch practitioner and founder of Tangé Wellness. I do professional cuddling, partner yoga, and polyvagal movement in my practice. And I have one office in Bethesda, Maryland, right on the DC line. And then I have a second office in Williamsburg, Virginia, which is about 4 hours south of where Bethesda is.
Oh, wow. So you work between the two offices?
I do. So I'm primarily here in my Bethesda office. And then 2 days out of the month, I go down to Williamsburg and see clients down there, typically a Thursday and Friday. Yeah, or a Friday, Saturday.
That's wonderful. I couldn't even support one office. So that's awesome.
Well, I negotiated a killer deal. So there was no way that I could not rent this office. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a nerd about anything?
Well, as Mars said, a raver nerd I once was. But I definitely would consider myself a nerd about touch, trauma, and well-being, overall well-being, mental specifically. Yeah.
Awesome.
Fascinated that you say you're a raver nerd. I certainly have been in that scene in my college days and in my experience. Have you traveled for any, or what kind of timeframes were you?
Oh, this was when I was in high school, and a few years after high school is when I would go to San Francisco or Oakland. Anybody in the rave scene in the late 90s knows home base in Oakland off of Hagenberger Road. That was a big party scene there for these massive raves. But yeah, and then of course around the Sacramento area, Al's Cabinet Shop was another big one back in the day. But since then I haven't. The funny thing is, I think now just clubs are kind of set up like what the rave scene was, minus the super secret undercover location. But there's clubs in DC that are very much, you have DJ spinning music that is like house or other kinds of techno, that it's not just a mix up of top 100. So
I enjoy that immensely. I really did enjoy dancing a lot as well. That's beautiful.
yeah.
You share that. I'm grateful to hear that.
I still go dancing. I'm a goth girl.
Yeah. I just did last night. It's really
Did
healing.
you? Oh, wow.
Very healing.
Love it.
Well, have you always been into cuddling, Jasmine? Has it just kind of always been on your radar, or is it something you discovered?
No, it's something I discovered through the Huffington Post. In 2016 is when I started cuddling. It's also when I read an article and really blew my mind. I was dealing with a lot on my shoulders. I talk about this a lot. Being a single mother of 3 and not having any family here. All of my family's in California. And when running a construction company is what I had at the time. I had a commercial electrical contracting company, and I had people who worked for me, and it was a lot on my shoulders to be handling everything at that level, and not having much of a support system, and more so having too much pride and too much ego to ask for help, to ask for support, besides seeing a therapist once a week or every other week. I had been doing that. And then actually experience laying my head on someone's lap while they said, hey, it's going to be okay. And they pet me like a dog. Then I cry and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be okay. And I found that I wanted to do it. I wanted to provide this. And so I did both. I did my electrical contracting company, ran that, and started cuddling. No, I started, I was on a live with Joe from Cuddle Haven out of Perth, Australia. And we were talking about I think this was just yesterday, we were talking about how cuddling has influenced our life, like our personal lives, not just our business life. And it has done wonders for my personal life. Learning how to say no, learning how to have more autonomy over my body, recognizing and respecting other people's no. Part of being in business is doing just the opposite. If you're hearing no, then you're not talking to the right person, or you're not trying hard enough. So moving from that kind of world to this very aware world kind of made me more present with myself. And then all of the education that came along with it really helped heal me as well. Even though I've always been a touch person, or a huggy person, and it's part of the culture, right? As a Mexican American, that's just how we roll. We're touchy feely huggy people, but it has had such a huge impact in my life that I am much more of a cuddly person today because of it.
What was the article in Huffington Post?
I don't remember. It was in 2016.
Or
an article somewhere between 2015 and 16.
It was about touch or touch hunger, something like that?
I think it was specifically professional cuddling, because my partner at the time was chopping vegetables. And I remember looking over at him like, professional cuddling? And he's like, what's that now? And I'm like, oh, let me read this to you.
Interesting.
Cool.
Crystal, do you have one? Do you have a question?
So, first off, I think I really am grateful for your shares. I really resonate with your story, and I really see the value in recognizing that the business world and the cuddle world are so separate. You know, that idea of learning how to really respect someone's no versus how our kind of entire society operates, and especially if you're a successful human in certain avenues,
Right. Yeah.
dynamics, capitalism, things like that. And so I'm really grateful for that share. You know, I would love to maybe hear a little bit more about, you know, the business background, or the idea of being able to, because I do feel that this is true with a lot of professional cuddlers, that, you know, overhead can be an issue, and that, you know, having a storefront or having a location and safety and all of those factors come into play, along with the fact that people who are so touchy-feely sometimes aren't organized with business. I'm maybe the first one to admit that. So I would love to hear that journey, or at least, you know, some of the things that inspired you to really be able to create that, because you have what I think is very, very beautiful and coveted in the cuddle world, which is multiple locations and a strong business.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Crystal. I know, so it's difficult, right? You as a mom, it is, am I allowed to cuss? Are we going to bleep it out?
In my opinion, I mean,
We're adults. We're all adults.
Okay. It's fucking difficult raising kids on your own. It is, that is one of the fucking hardest things that I have ever done. And that in and of itself is hard. Adding the additional pressure of not having a support, and then also having a business, it is trial and error. Learning how to do all of it is late nights, lots of tears, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideations. What the fuck am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? Fuck it all. So that's what happens when you're dealing with business and kids, and it just takes so much effort. But I had to learn that early on when I had my construction company. I had to go through that. That's the whole reason that I went through all those trial and errors, that I was up, you know, going to sleep at 2:00 in the morning to be up by 5 to be in DC by 6, so I could meet the inspector or meet my guys and get them started on the job, or sleeping in my car to make sure the job gets done. I'm used to this highly wound up, highly stressful life and experience. And one of the things I told myself when I decided to close my construction company and just do Tangé wellness, just do platonic touch, professional cutting, partner yoga, was I wasn't going to subscribe to the hustle culture anymore. And that, or at least I was going to slowly back away from it. It's not like a switch, right? You know, I've got bills and a mortgage and kids who I guess want to eat or something, but it is a slow, intentional progression to the way that I want to live my life. I don't want to be crying in my car because I'm so stressed out. I don't want to be too ashamed to admit that and say I can't handle all of this. And so all of that is what got me to where I am today. So it's already knowing that I can go in and negotiate office space. I know what my overhead is, looking at my numbers. I've already been very good at keeping track of my accounting, income, expenses, assets, all of that. So that's something that I had already been doing with my business. Transferring it to Tangé Wellness. Another thing I said I wasn't going to be, because in construction, there's so many moving parts. There's so many people you're dealing with. There's so much money coming in and out. There's so many transactions. And this business it's not like that at all. So no more hustle culture. I wasn't going to work with anybody that I didn't want to work with anymore, because in construction, I had to put up with a lot as a woman in a male dominated industry. It was tough, you know. I wouldn't say excessive, blatant sexual harassment, but it was there. I mean, it was there. I think because of my outgoing personality, my affinity for business, already knowing numbers, knowing how to track them, knowing not to overcommit, that is how I've been able to keep this business successful. You know, my first experience is when I was 33 or 34, raising my price in my construction company from $85 an hour to $115, knowing that people are going to say no, people are going to give me a hard time. And so when I did that here, I did a big bump like in 2018 from 80 to 100. And then when COVID hit, I went from 100 to 175 an hour. And that was a big bump. Again, recognizing I'm probably going to lose some clients, but this is where I have to be to pay my bills, to keep my office. And so I don't really feel bad about that. Maybe a little bit at first, but that's really how I think I keep this going. And also geeking out on it. We were talking about, what do you nerd out on or geek out on? I bend people's ears left and right, talking about my company and what I do, and, you know, broaching people who are definitely not open to this kind of thing. Those people who are like, what are you doing now? Or that's weird. Why are you doing that? Oh, you're letting people touch you. Those are the people that I like to talk to. It's more difficult, but I feel like I get so much out of it because I'm hearing the opposition. I'm, what is that called? Challenging myself with that, as opposed to somebody who's like, oh yeah, I love that. All right, I can handle you. I want to handle them over there who are like, ew, gross.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear that. That's always the more fun conversation of like trying to show them, well, first of all, figure out like what are they assuming it is, and maybe say, well, did you know it's about consent education? And how easy is it for you to tell people no? I love talking about that too. Anyway, we could go down that road all day.
Yeah, it is. And if people are willing to listen, right? Yeah. So let me ask you, Mary, when you talk to people about that, do you continue the conversation even when their next statement is, that's still really weird? Consent or not, that's weird. Do you continue? Well, what makes it weird? Or are you kind of like, all right, well, you're kind of not going to follow this, or, you know, there's no sale here.
You have to read the audience. I mean, sometimes they're just like, that's weird. And it's time to walk away. But if they're like, oh, that just seems kind of weird, then I'm like, okay, well, let's talk some more about it. Why do you think it's weird? What are you thinking is weird about it? Or, I try to continue if they're at all open to it, because I found a lot of people that once they realize what it actually is and not what they don't even know what it is, so they're afraid. I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And a lot of conversations like that end with, that's really cool, but it's not for me, which
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, because they're the ones that tell other people. They're like, okay, hey, did you know you
Oh, yeah. Right.
That has happened a lot too, where I get referrals of somebody who heard about it or had a conversation, and they send people back to me. So
I posted a video of myself cuddling with a YouTuber, and I got so many comments like, oh, now I get it. And I'm like, what is there not to get? I cuddle with people. I
like that.
I was so confused by that. Oh, now I get it. Like, it was an epiphany. Like, oh, I'm like,
people don't
because
get it.
she had lost her mom, and she was very like emotional about it. That's most of our clients, right? They have the emotional component to why they want to see us. I'm getting, theory about it now.
Yeah, that support, like what Jasmine was talking about with your own journey, Jasmine.
Yes.
I think all of us need that in our lives, and we can't get it from our personal connections, a lot of the time, or we don't have the personal connections available even. So yeah, this is filling that gap. I love it.
Right.
And I kind of wanted to go back to what you're talking about then too, Jasmine, about the hustle culture, and you can't do it all. Or actually, you didn't actually say this. You said you were trying to do it all, because people expect you to do it all, right?
I was doing it all.
You are amazing.
She was doing the most.
Yeah. Who's doing the most? Who can run a full-time business and be a full-time home mom and, and start another business? Oh my gosh. We can't. And that's a problem with our culture of like that we're expecting people to do that without support. Did you reach a moment where you're just like, no human being can do what I'm expecting myself to do?
Oh, did I reach a moment? No, there wasn't one defining moment. It was following therapists of Instagram. It was reading Brene Brown. It was having a moment of this can't stay the same. I can't keep crying in my car because something didn't go right. I can't keep drinking excessively. I had to learn other coping mechanisms.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did, and that brought you to us.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah, I just wish we could send that message to more people in our culture of like this hustle thing where you're supposed to do it all and be it all and not and let it roll off your back. That's not real. That's the fake thing that people try to show you, but that's not how it happens for people.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how to solve that either.
Maybe it's a slow progression. The more that we talk about it, the four of us talking about it, other people talking about it, I think it'll slowly get there. Not to discredit anybody who is deep in hustle culture. If you're a single person and you can do it, and you live for that, and you're still able to, journal and meditate and continue it, is that still hustle culture? If you're working 60, 70 hours in finance, you're not really responsible for anybody else except for yourself, and you're doing all this self-care things that you're supposed to be doing.
So
if it feeds your soul and you love it, then maybe that is for you. But I don't know anyone that it works that way for. So, but yeah, thank you for including that. Like, it could work for some people.
I do think it's all about adaptation, and I really love the concept of starting to practice feeling into oneself and recognizing that yes, there are certain times in my existence that hustling is part of the journey or part of what I need at that moment, and then there are times of self-care or integration. And so I kind of see it as a wave, and I also see it as a life cycle. So as we mature and as we grow in ourselves, we start to recognize that being a superhero for so long, there's some times where we need to slow it down and maybe not be that superhero anymore, and change that dynamic and change that quote unquote label. So I love that. And I can resonate kind of with, what everyone has said along those lines. So I'm really grateful. I think that cuddling has really brought me to that personally. And I feel like, again, Jasmine, you're right, that the more we kind of, it sounds, again, I don't like to use the word preach. I don't think that has a positive connotation, but I do say that spreading that word or spreading that idea or just, speaking our truth really helps us see it.
Oh, absolutely. I think hearing other people talk about it is kind of when, hello, what are you doing? When people share their truth.
Your vulnerability around cuddling with people, sometimes people that you haven't met before.
Wait, say that again, Mar?
Can you speak on that, about being vulnerable and about seeing people in their vulnerability when you get together with them to cuddle?
Oh, like in a session?
Yeah.
Can I speak on it? I don't really know exactly what to say about it. If someone comes into the office who's sharing something deep, something scary, if they're crying, if they're having a physical emotional reaction, I'm just there for them, I suppose. Do
you feel like it's a more authentic experience if they are showing up with their emotions like in front of them rather than trying to keep them hidden away?
I would say out in the wild, I would feel that way with my partner, with my friends, maybe with some of you. If I was trying to have a conversation and trying to connect and there was like that wall, you're not getting through here, Jasmine. In session, it's different. I'm not here to judge. I'm here not to say that that is judging, not to say that it's not more luscious is the word that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But I'm here just to listen. So if they have it like this, because I have plenty of clients who come in like that, then that's how they're showing up, and that's the best they can do right now until they start to feel safe, until they can trust me, until they feel safe in this space, until they even recognize that there's something more than wanting touch going on.
Yeah. That's a great answer.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned, Jasmine, that this is different in the outside world and that you might approach vulnerability differently. And I'd love to ask a little bit more about the idea of, there are different clients. And so I recognize that I have some clients that are more challenging in one way and need something different than other clients. I guess, can you speak on the potential of challenging clients versus that safe holding space? Because I feel like there's several dynamics and approaches you can take to that.
Yes, I can. So I had a client who really liked to challenge everything I said. They were very young, 18, 19. This was a few years ago. And everything I said, very down on themselves, very unhappy, was not happy with their life, with what they were doing, had no desire to do anything besides work and go back to their room and work, and that's it. And then come see me once a week or once every other week. And that was hard. It was hard. It was difficult. It was so hard that I had to put parameters. I had to put boundaries on the discussion for myself, not for them, because they were just reacting and responding to what, at least this is how I saw it, reacting and responding to what I was saying. So how about this? How about I pull back, and instead of saying, oh, well, let's get curious about how you're feeling about your parents, or let's get curious, whatever they were talking about. Let's get curious about, why you don't want to go out and do anything outside, but, at the same time, you're super lonely. I stopped that because I realized that's not going anywhere. Well, why would I? There's nothing out there. I mean, just everyone tells me I should, and it was a few sessions of that, and recognizing, that's not my job. I'm going to sit back and we're just going to do this. We're going to hold and laugh, maybe draw, which that got them to do a sketch of how they thought they looked, while we were cuddling, pen and paper, laying down together, and then a sketch of how they wanted to look and how they wanted to be, how they wanted to see themselves. So no more communication. Let's do it in another modality. Another, and I tend to ramble, so not shut me up, but just like give me a notice, like stop rambling. There was another client that was pretty difficult. And this one was difficult in the sense that I don't think that I was prepared, right? I always put it on my shoulders. I wasn't prepared for the amount of dissociation and trauma they had. Oh my God, is my voice getting, I think I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
So this one, another young kid, I call them kids, in his early 20s, homeless, had just been released from, what's it called? Being institutionalized? Made the appointment with me, then was institutionalized or went into a hospital. And then 2 days before our session, they got out and came here. And this one was pretty tough in the sense that, like I said, I was a bit perplexed on how I could help them. I knew going in that they wouldn't be able to meditate. I knew going in that there was trauma. Interestingly enough, during the session, we didn't talk about any of the trauma. All of it was feeling into their body. All of it was grounding, centering work. So there was no meditation because that was off the table. We know many trauma survivors, people who are dealing with big C trauma, is it big C, little c? I don't know. But post-traumatic to complex. Some people can't be left alone and just sit there in their mind. So trauma or meditation's not there. So we did proprioception movement, moving our joints, doing squats. And during that feeling into their body, not doing the squats, but, just kind of moving and stretching and lifting the leg. And they started putting themselves in a position that was hurting them. They had this face like that. And I looked up and I was like, and I had to stop myself because I'm going to, get all frantic, and that's not helpful in this situation. So I said, you look like you're in pain. What are you doing? And I wasn't laughing, of course. And they said, well, I can do more. I can push myself. I'm like, in this experience, we're just trying to gently feel into our body. And they're like, no, I can do this. And I'm like, okay, let's stand up. Let's try another approach. How about we just sit down and we'll try. No, we couldn't touch. That's right. This was a no touch one. I think we were sitting down and they were on a chair and I was sitting on the floor to lessen that intimidation factor, to make it feel just a bit more safe, a bit more controlled for the client, if I'm down further. And eventually, the last, I think, 15 minutes, my sessions are usually 2 hours. They finally got comfortable enough to hug. Yeah. And then after the session, they left and I put some music on and I cried because I don't even know why I was crying. I think it was because there was so much pain and fear in this person, and uncertainty that my heart just bled. My heart bled for them. And that was really difficult. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Jasmine. That's a beautiful story and really a testament again to the idea that there's no one size fits all approach to any client, really.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That totally resonates for me too, because I have discovered for myself that working with people who are dealing with trauma is too much for me. It takes too much out of me, and I wish that I could, and I know that I can help them, but when I do, I have to recover for like days after, and I cry, and so I'm like, I mean, I'm not like gonna say I can't work with people with trauma, but because everyone has some kind of trauma, but I'm not gonna seek out trauma victims. So I know that for myself. So that, I mean, and realizing how hard that can be for the practitioner, I don't think people get that. They're like, oh, you're just hugging them. It's like, no.
Right.
Right. A lot more. Yeah. Agreed.
I like to hug. I'm good at it. I can do that.
Yeah, I could just hug. Sure.
Oh.
Your job sounds so easy. I'm like, no.
It's not.
I mean, I love it, but yeah, it takes
Right.
a lot. But also what I was thinking while you were telling that story is I struggle with the line between a therapist and what we do. I mean, and some people even like to be called a cuddle therapist or therapeutic. You use the word therapeutic. And we've had this conversation a lot in the cuddle community, like, is it therapy? Are we therapists? And I have decided that I am not a therapist because that's how I brand myself. I don't use I can use the word therapeutic because I definitely agree with that. But
yeah,
trying to figure out where's the line between us and like having a therapist, a psychologist or a psychiatrist or other therapists, mental health therapists, and where, you know, have you thought about that? What do you think on that?
me?
Yeah, Jasmine.
Yeah, I've absolutely thought about
Yeah.
that. I think that I want to, it's a tough one. Okay, so I want to respect those therapists who have the 10,000 hours of monitored sessions with, what is that called when you have somebody else who talks to you after them with supervision. I want to recognize that. I want to recognize the amount of education that goes into that master's degree in psychology, the certifications for, you know, the different things that therapists offer, psychotherapists. And I want to respect that because a lot goes into it and there's a lot of education. At the same time, are we therapists? I want to say, without offending people, I don't consider myself a therapist. I call myself a platonic touch practitioner because that's what I practice. But I don't want to knock anybody who, of course, does use the term therapist, cuddle therapist, because that's what resonates with them. For me, I feel like there's a lot more association to that. If someone thinks they're coming in here to get cuddle therapy from me, I'm not processing these things with people. However, there's yoga therapists, right? Besides I don't know, this is an ignorant statement I'm about to make. You know, besides their, you know, yoga training, 500 hours, what makes them a yoga therapist? Is it the yoga training that they did for 6 months or however long yoga training is? That they took? Was there additional education around trauma? You know, are they aware that they can't just put their hands on someone? More than just consent, my body, my choice, but recognizing the implication of putting your hands on someone. What if they say, yeah, go ahead and you can put your hands on my back to push me, and it triggers something? Do they know what to do? Have they taken something that I took, and it's pretty easy. It's like a 3-day course, is the mental health first aid.
Yeah.
Someone is triggered, if someone's in crisis, do they know how to handle that? Are they going to shut down? Is it their problem? No. Are they expected to know this? I don't know. Are they, so long answer, I don't know.
Yeah, I there's so many gray areas and it resonates differently for other people. And I don't want to knock anyone who uses therapy in their title either. I definitely have seen therapeutic outcomes from, cuddling.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. And I'd love to hear you guys, Mare and Crystal, weigh in on that question too, if you have an opinion.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I was really feeling a lot as you guys were speaking, because I think, and this is a little bit of a vulnerable share, like I definitely started on the path of psychology and psychiatry, and I very much quickly veered from it and have actually held a bit of resentment for the Western medicine model of mental health. And so hearing you guys speak on, the amount of work it takes to become a therapist and the amount of effort and intention, I really honestly in my head was kind of doing a little bit of a 180 flip and just sort of loving and feeling a lot of gratitude for the idea of, we're all in this together. I have I love talking about alternative therapies, and I even, use that in my business name, Crystal Therapy. And I'm recognizing, even as you spoke, kind of a shift, kind of an idea that not only giving more reverence to that term or that Western medicine model, seeing the benefit of the blending, and then also recognizing that what I do, I can, and what I feel is the intention behind a lot of people in this profession or in the bodywork fields, is kind of a holding space. I love the safe space, the holding space for one another, and just being present for their healing. Like, they are empowered to do the work. We are people that have maybe done some of the work, or maybe we're in the trenches doing the work too, and I feel a very beautiful shift as you ladies were speaking. So I kind of just wanted to touch on that and feel into that for a moment. So thank you.
That's a good point to say that we're in the trenches doing the work. I mean, I bow down to mental health therapists because they are so educated and they are so experienced with supervision, as you said. I don't call myself a therapist, but what we do are alternative therapies, as you said. I do some shamanic work in my practice, not necessarily in a cuddle session, but it can be. I do Reiki. You can say I'm a Reiki therapist, but I really try to avoid that term because of the education that's and the certification that's involved in becoming a mental health therapist. Practitioner works fine for me, but we really are like in there with it. We're doing when we're bodily touching someone, things come up more than when someone is in talk therapy sitting across from the other, right? We're really in there with them when these things come up. Like you said, you touch someone's back and they have a memory that comes up. We're there to support them during that time. So mental health, first aid, first of all, that's something that definitely needs to be. In our field, we should be at least trauma-informed lay people.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Completely agree. Whether or not you're working with trauma clients, it'll happen. Not always, but it's bound to happen eventually if you continue in this practice.
Yeah, and I recognize in myself I need more trauma awareness training for sure. Something I'm going to be pursuing. So.
Oh, good.
Wonderful. Yeah, I want to. I mean, it's on my list.
I actually, I haven't taken or heard too much about just that concept, mental health first aid. I would love to hear either how you found it or where others could find it, just because it does seem like an additional study that cuddle practitioners could follow.
Well, that would be a nice thing to include on the information for this podcast. I like that. Let's switch gears a little bit, Jasmine, and talk about playfulness in your cuddling.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I know. Crystal, you're all, huh?
Do you have any stuffy? Do you have any fun positions?
Fun positions. One of the things I tell clients, like one of my rigid boundaries is no tickling. Held down, tickled as a kid, can't stand it. As an adult, I can't stand it. And so much that it makes me uncomfortable to tickle other people. Even my kids, they'll be like, tickle me. And I'll do it like for a real quick second and then stop, be like, are you okay? Keep going. But it just, it makes me uncomfortable.
For a lot of people, that was their early boundary being crossed, right? Stop tickling me, and then they won't stop. And that was for me too, traumatic. Yeah.
And I'll often tell clients, there are practitioners who do play therapy and utilize tickling as one of them, one of those modalities within it. But I don't do that. So fun positions. Fun positions. I feel like they're all the regular ones, like mama bear, baby bear, or big bear, little bear, lap of luxury. I think where the creativity, more so than maybe playfulness, is the movement of my hands, utilizing my hands, utilizing my biceps, my thighs, the bigness. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I'm 5'11", about 180 pounds. And so I can wrap people pretty good, especially since the majority of my clients are men. Wrap them with my legs, squeeze them with my thighs, and that compression feels really good. I have to be more careful when I have small, typically female clients, which I don't have very many of. That's a stretch for me, getting more comfortable working with women. But I think that's where the creativity comes. Doing things like, if we're in Big Bear, Little Bear, doing something like this.
Yeah, they love
that kind of thing. Gently pulling on the ears, massaging them. Even my son asks in the morning, can I have an ear massage?
that.
So while he's laying in bed, I'll sit there and massage his ears, running my fist up here to the base of their skull. This bone, it's a pressure point. And so just placing it there as I breathe and then working my way up, stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to cuddle with you.
I'll be in California in March. Maybe I can go down to LA. Are you in Los Angeles or where?
Yeah, I'm in the Los Angeles area, Pasadena area.
Okay.
Cool. In-person nerd break.
And Dave Beyond's in the LA area too.
Mm-hmm.
Although I thought maybe Orange County. No, I'm not sure. Maybe he'll tell us. Anyway.
Yeah.
LA.
I would love to get together and have either a nerd in person or another Cuddle Expo or another, meeting of the minds with Cuddler. So Jasmine, someday I'll take you off on that, and I would love to get back out to California or visit Mary or literally anywhere. I'm definitely a big advocate.
Yeah, I say let's go to Panama. Can we all do that?
Wow.
Come down. I got an extra room. I got a big floor.
It's so awesome that you're there.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah, it's way fun. Yeah, actually, seriously, I would like to plan another Cuddle Expo or a retreat or something. I just can't wrap my head around it by myself. I have to put a team together, and I just haven't done it. But that is another thing on my list I'd love to do. Yeah, while we're talking about that, Jasmine, you were at Cuddle Expo. That's actually where I met you.
And Crystal.
You hosted a session on marketing, I think. Something about business. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, what was your experience of Cuddle Expo?
Oh, I was out of my element. I'm a social person, but I wasn't really sure what to expect. It was in 2018, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had just come out of the Cuddle Closet after I got certified through Cuddle Sanctuary, actually in Pasadena. That's where we were.
In the yurt.
In the yurt. That's
I
right.
was in the yurt. I didn't meet you.
Well, in 2019 or no, 18?
18, yeah.
Were you in February?
But with Madeline and
No, Madeline wasn't there.
Oh, this is a different one then.
Yeah. I forgot what I was talking about. What was I saying?
We were talking about Cuddle Expo.
You had just come out of the closet and Expo was tough for you.
Right. So I was helping do, I don't remember. I was the money tree. So I was shaking the money tree, helping Keely and Faye and Lisa. We needed money for it. And so I was out there trying to get sponsorship and other people to donate. But the funny thing is, it was a funny conversation to me. I don't know if anybody else in the meeting thought it was funny. I don't think they did. But as I was giving them an update of potential sponsors, and they had a list of people they wanted, and then I was just adding more on there. Companies, corporate sponsorship. And I'm like, but a lot of people are having a hard time with the word cuddle, but we all knew that would happen. So we're trying to, that's just going to happen. And Faye's like, no, I didn't know that was going to happen. I was like, okay. I mean, I know my experience saying I'm a professional cuddler at Chamber of Commerce meetings, that people were like, you have to do that here. We're lawyers and bankers and blah, blah, blah. So I knew that would be an issue. Using the word cuddle, and people like, Tom's, or companies like Tom's, or I don't know, Nature First, or any of these other companies that I was going after for sponsorship, it was hard. Even who is it, Bodyworks, who does a lot of insurance coverage for practitioners, for body workers, they were even having a hard time with it. They didn't want to. Did they donate? I don't think they did. I don't think they sponsored.
They didn't.
Yeah. So, but anyway, my mind was around that. And since I didn't know anybody, I just kind of threw myself into work and going around and making sure things were going well, sitting at the tables. My experience with it was fun. But this is the thing, I don't like to be touched. I don't like people I don't know touching me. And there were a few times that, like at the cuddle party, there was a cuddle party at the end of one of the nights, and I was really uncomfortable while I was being cuddled by someone.
Really?
I didn't speak up and say anything. Yeah, this is actually the first time.
No, yeah.
Hopefully that person sees this. It doesn't feel bad.
Oh.
Yeah, and
why did you say your no?
why? So I didn't say my no because I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable and I couldn't find it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And yeah, and I should have, like, I think back and I think, wow, you're so stupid. Why didn't you speak up and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Let me move out of the way, or let me go sit over here. And there was a point afterwards, like I lasted, I don't know, maybe before we moved again, it was 3 to 5 minutes. And that's when I got up and went somewhere else, and someone else had come and asked, so do you want a massage? And I was like, no. I think I ended up just standing and talking to someone and watching everybody because it felt much more safe there. Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that share, Jasmine. I really appreciate that. First off, being vulnerable with us here and sharing that for the first time and also feeling into it. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I love what you said. Like, I don't like strangers touching me. Yeah. I don't either. You know, that's the number one thing I hear from people of, like, I would never cuddle a stranger. It's like, I don't cuddle strangers either.
Yeah.
You get to know people, and only when it feels right. Yeah, even clients, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think people get that either. They're like,
no, I don't think they do.
Touch you. It's like, no, that's totally not what it is.
Me, I was that person who would grab someone and go, well, I'm a hugger. Being a professional cuddler has taught me to calm my tits. You know what I mean? Like, I do not touch anyone unless I have their consent now. And that's a far cry from where I used to be. I just thought, oh, everyone likes to be hugged. I'm just going to grab them and hug them. And I was wrong. I was really wrong. And I feel bad for people that I did that to. But I just thought all hugs are welcome, because for me, all hugs are welcome. So,
right.
Yeah, I had to learn that.
For everybody.
Mare, that's really true for me as well, what you said. I'm a very energetic person. I'm a very happy person. I tend to attack hug people. Yeah. And I very much had to learn through cuddling that no, not everyone's ready for what I have to offer, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean that they don't like me, but it was a really interesting journry to feel into. So I'm grateful that you shared that. Definitely.
I probably will attack hug you though if I ever meet you.
It would be welcome. I do feel blanket consent, that vibe.
Totally.
Yeah, sure. Crystal would say yes.
Yeah.
The other thing that.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Crystal.
No, you're perfect. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna go back to another point from what Jasmine was saying about how hard it was for you to say no in that situation. Even after you're a trained cuddler, after you've had all of these experiences, you still struggled with saying your no. And I know we have a lot of people out there who feel that. And I do group events, cuddle parties, and that is the number one thing I have trouble with, of like, we're telling you, we want you to say no. How can we help you feel more safe? My experience at that cuddle party was that there were not enough facilitators, and because there were 75 people on the floor, but we were all.
Were there 75 people?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize.
So we were all in the cuddle community. So there was a little bit of expectation that we had some understanding there. But my experience, especially with when they had to do the breakouts for the intro, so we only had like 5 people in our intro group that I got introduced to and had shared experience with. Like, I didn't know the other 70 people. So I'm like, I don't feel safe with you. I have no shared experience. There's multiple facilitators, but I didn't, and we were all kind of and we were all responsible. But yeah, in that, I don't want to put it on them. They were trying to give us a cuddle party experience, and that's the only way they've done it. But I understand what you're saying of why it didn't quite feel safe to you there, and I'm not sure if I have a question here. I'm just
Mary, quite frankly, I've never felt comfortable at cuddle parties. So, I think I have to go through 1 or 2 cuddle parties to get certified with Cuddle Sanctuary. And then once I did Cuddlist, I think they require the same thing, go to a cuddle party.
I think so.
The few times that I've gone to cuddle parties, it was because I had to. A client wanted to go to a cuddle party, and so I went with her because she asked me to.
Oh, cool.
They're just not something I'm into because I don't know the people. And we can sit there and spend, a few minutes, an hour and a half getting to know each other. I still don't know them. And there's still this, block that I have up. Yeah. And there is something, so when I went with my client, I received a massage from somebody I knew, and then that was it. And I didn't want any more touch. And people kept coming and asking me, would you like this? Can you do this? And I think that's what kind of gets sold.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything that they're doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's not them. I'm just not comfortable having to sit there and, no, I'm good. Maybe I need a sign. Don't ask me because it's a no. Maybe I need a bracelet. I'm a permanent no, unless I say otherwise.
Doesn't Cuddle Sanctuary have the solo salon?
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
There's that little section where you just sit and no one bothers you and asks you that question. That's what I like about Cuddle Sanctuary group events.
Yeah.
With the exception of crystals. I forgot. I went to your event. It was not weird. And I didn't have to go to that. I chose to go to that on my own accord. I forgot about that one.
I'm so grateful that you came. Not only did I feel supported and seen, and just to share, I started doing group events, and I decided to train under the Cuddle Sanctuary model of group events first before attempting to work towards the cuddle party, which I haven't finished yet. And I really still host these events in Pittsburgh. And one thing that I really have recognized as you ladies were speaking, not only was the resonance with every word you said, from Solo Salon Mare to Mary, your question, just bringing up that we're not always ready to say no. I think that part of my intention is really to create the safe space I never had. And I'm really feeling into that in the last couple of months and recognizing in the real world, it's actually a lot more challenging to feel safe, to say no. And so these spaces we create to practice, I honestly really love going to other people's events because I can be the person that receives that touch and receives that healing. But I've found that, again, it does matter who's hosting or what type of event it is or where it is. So I do think that part of the reason I feel so called to travel is to go find those for myself. And then when I'm here in Pittsburgh, my goal is to kind of create them. But I did want to say, Jasmine, it was such a pleasure. And I'm so grateful that you feel comfortable sharing that you attended the event. It was real magical that you came and made it a great first event. Because by the way, it was literally possibly the first event I'd ever actually hosted.
It was also helpful that I knew people there already, right?
Yes, I think you did know one human there, which was amazing. I think it was a really nice group. It was a really nice group. Thank you.
And that's something in my community in Salt Lake. We have people that have been returning for years and years. So we have a core group that does know each other. And then we have, a few new people every time. And that really helps a lot when you've got that history of the people that have been there and they do know each other. Yeah.
They probably look forward to seeing each other there in those regular events.
Yeah, definitely.
In Pittsburgh, that's very true. In Pittsburgh, we do have at least 4 people that are very, very regular and that I have built very close relationships with and feel very safe with myself, but also I'm grateful to offer that space of healing for them. And so it's interesting. I love hearing the different perspectives, and especially Jasmine, I love hearing that you know yourself enough to say, you know what, kind of gets old. I feel good about my nose. This is good. But I think it is really healthy for some people who need to practice. And I'm recognizing in myself, just like at the Cuddle Expo, we're not always ready for what we think we are ready for. Those continuous noticings are really beautiful. So I love that. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah, thanks.
Just to touch on consent and challenging boundaries. And in fact, thinking about you know, how you mentioned you've gone to a lot of events, most of the time forced, but that you have chosen, you know, I think about
You say it like that, I'm sorry.
No, in a negative way. No. But
Get in there and cuddle.
that is awesome.
Okay.
We don't do that.
The idea of leaning into the edge and the idea of, you know, pushing our own boundaries and kind of recognizing that, I think is a beautiful journey. And I know I'm on it myself, and finding finding where it feels safest to say no, because it actually, I think, takes as much courage to say a no as a yes at times. And so talking about consent and boundaries, you know, we hear the phrase so often, practice good boundaries. Would you say, and obviously I think this is a very, you know, there's a lot of perspectives here, but is it healthy to lean into one's edge? And what is that fine line between challenging that edge and really pushing someone's boundaries or your own?
Excellent question. So part of what I talk to clients about is like the two types of boundaries, the rigid boundaries that are never going to change, and then the flexible boundaries that are going to change, shift, adjust, depending on who you're with, where you are, how you're feeling, both emotionally and physically in the moment. Someone who doesn't like their neck being touched, this is a common example I give. But, you know, say a woman comes in, doesn't like her neck or her ear being touched, her husband or partner likes to nibble or touch it, kiss on it, and she takes it. She grins and bears it and deals with it. But she wants to learn to become more comfortable with it. She wants to enjoy it. So in this space, here's where she gets to flex that otherwise stay away from my neck boundary. Where am I going to be nibbling or licking her neck? No, but I am going to be close to her. I'm going to be touching her ear. You know, maybe I'm going to have my head near her shoulder or leaning on her shoulder. I might be breathing on her neck. These are slow progressions that get there. Same with people who, you know, the throat seems to be a big one.
Yeah, it's
same
primal.
with people and ears who don't like their throat being touched. Not necessarily the neck, but the throat specifically. But they kind of want to, you know, let's play around here. Normally I don't like it.
There in the throat.
Oh, is it?
In my Reiki training, you know, your hands, you ask permission first, but your hands are on the person bodily. But when you get to the throat, you hover, because it's so primal that something's on my throat. It's primal. Like you feel a hand on your throat and you're, you know, you start to get defensive and fight. And
that totally makes sense.
Brain. Yeah.
Yes.
It's such a vulnerable area with your artery right here. You know, it's so easy to, that is the easiest spot to kill you. So
that, and then also the stomach. The stomach is another very vulnerable spot.
I agree. I feel that they're so intimate. Like, I feel like they're just, even without the vulnerability, well, it is a vulnerable thing to be intimate, but even on, you know, that's something a partner has more access to in my world. So I resonate with that being a tough spot for people.
That is a good point. The people that you do allow there.
Yeah.
For me, my flex or my stretch in sessions is being physical, because I'm just not as flexible as you yoga mamas usually. So I had a client ask me to sit in the yab yum with him, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm probably going to be sore tomorrow, but I'm going to accommodate, because, you know, I think I can get there, you know, and if, you know, it was a short while, but I was like, okay, that's about enough. But yeah, learning to be more flexible, like physically, is one thing that I'm working on. Yeah.
I'd actually like to hear, Jasmine, about, do you have other things that you bring into your practice other than cuddle work? Do you have other modalities?
You mean like
Attention
the
wellness?
intimacy deck?
Oh my God, I have that.
Do you have the intimacy deck?
Yes, I have it right here.
I was just chatting with Keely to do a live that we were going to show how to utilize the intimacy deck.
I haven't even heard of this. Do tell.
I haven't gotten into it much, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Jasmine.
So the intimacy deck, it's made up of 6 different categories. There's past life, intimacy, random, relationship, and about you. And Michelle Renee told me how she uses one of her decks where one person picks 3 cards, the other person picks 3 cards, and the other person, you know, so I pick 3 cards, I give them to Mary. Mary gets to choose one to answer, whichever one, it doesn't matter. So I've used it that way. I've done it where I pick 6 cards and give it to the client and they answer. Sometimes, so the intimacy ones they're pretty intimate sexually, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with public displays of affection? Describe something that turns you on, which you haven't shared with me. These can be shifted and changed. You know, if I'm seeing a client, obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously, but we don't always necessarily talk about sexuality or sex for that matter. But some of them get, you know, what's your favorite sexual memory of us? Well, clearly we're not going to have one, but, you know, what's your favorite sexual memory? Now, for me, I can talk about sex all day. I feel pretty comfortable in my sexuality, but for some people, as you all probably know, that's very hard to even talk about it, let alone talking about masturbation or anything else. But those ones are probably one of the tougher sets. But of course, then there's some clients who are like, let's all just do all the red ones because that's fun and it's saucy and, you know, but the other ones that can be difficult are relationships. So yeah, anyway, that's how I use them. What's this one? This is random. What's something you thought when we first met that you no longer believe that's true? I think that's a good one.
I like that.
Oh, I like that too.
And I love that you're using it with clients. That's something that I honestly didn't, it was a gift to me. And I thought, oh, this could be used with friends and partners, but I really love the idea of practicing with clients. So I'm grateful that you feel safe and comfortable doing that. I'm like really pumped.
Yeah, and you have to read, right? You have to read the client, read the person, see how they feel. If you're asking, you know, what's a memory of I think one of them is like, what's a memory of your caregiver, mother or father that was bad? And you can see someone kind of clam up and get small. Yeah. And you just kind of sit there and sit with them and not say, okay, come on, you gonna tell me? Come on. You know, if they choose to pass on that one, they pass on it. Or I might give them an out and be like, we can move on from that. And they'll be like, no, give me a minute. Give me a minute. You can take 10.
So this is a deck that you developed and printed?
No, I didn't develop this. Okay. This is from, I don't know. Best Self is the name of the company that sells it.
I think it was found on Instagram, possibly for me. Like, I think we found it through a company that was selling it online.
Yes. I found it through an ad. I think TikTok for something me. Like that.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but I also have, you know, the CBD.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fun. You know, I can't use it with all clients who have a tendency to ruminate, or people in general who have a tendency to ruminate. Cognitive behavioral therapy doesn't work necessarily for them, or is less likely to work. So for some people who, you know, can utilize affirmations, if they say, oh yeah, I have affirmations, I'll say, oh, you know, let's check out this deck, and while we cuddle, and we'll just take a couple cards and read them. So I use those. I use conversation cards or deck, whatever you call them. I also do partner yoga. So for people that, and I find it's, well, I don't want to make any sweeping assessments, but so for people who aren't necessarily ready to cuddle, we'll do stretching, and we'll maybe sit down with our backs facing each other, link our arms, and take turns going forward and back and kind of stretching ourselves. So assisted stretch, laying on our backs, or maybe doing leg up the wall,
Love it.
or stretching our hip muscles. Most people's hips are pretty tight, doing pigeon or something. Yeah. And then polyvagal movement also, which I don't use as often, but is something that I utilize.
Jasmine, I've been really interested in asking about a little bit more about polyvagal movement. So it's something I'm not actually as familiar with, and I would love for any of our listeners to understand a basic concept of it. And then I would love to just hear how you're using it or how it's benefited your clients.
Okay. So what it is I use it as grounding techniques for feeling into their body. The theory behind it, I don't have all of that information. So, but it's something you could Google and read more about. With the movement, let me see, I'm going to drop this down a little bit. So, oops, I don't think I can go much farther. So one of the ones that I do is, oh gosh, I forget what it's called, but essentially is it pinky paw or pick me up and hug or something like that. I recently posted this on my Instagram, but one is the leader, one is the mirror. You don't always have to be, you can do separate things, but let's say, Crystal, you and I are doing this. You're the mirror, I'll be the leader. We would start maybe reaching my hands out to you and then bringing you close to me and holding you here. I have a tendency of closing my eyes just to focus in on what I'm feeling. And then opening my eyes and giving them back to you. And then I would stop and you would do something similar. Another one would be, and this could also, be done in person, obviously, or over Zoom like this. So I
was just going to say that mirroring thing is a good technique on Zoom. It works. Okay. I mean, even just watching you right now do it, I was like, oh, I'm there. I feel it. You're hugging
me. Me too. I'm feeling good. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually where I first started using it during the pandemic when I had to shut down my practice.
The virtual, yeah.
Yeah. Virtual sessions, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
The butterfly. Yeah.
One of the things that I've always wanted to learn more about is tapping. Like I've talked to a lot of people, but it's something that I've never actually incorporated into sessions. So.
Yeah, it's something that I have looked into a little bit. It kind of helps me slightly. So I haven't really incorporated it to me. So I don't always remember it, but I like to bring it up to people because it's so easy. I mean, there's like no downside and there's no side effects. It's like you can figure out if it's helping you or not, but at the very least, it helps bring you back into your body. So it's a good tool to have in your repertoire.
And is there a mantra or anything else that you're supposed to say with it, or no?
It depends on your practice of what you want to do with it. You can have a thing to say like, I'm good at saying no. I'm calm now, or whatever it is. There are certain points that you're supposed to touch in a specific order, but honestly, it's not really that important how you do it. It's just to bring your awareness back to your body and help you calm your systems down. And it does really work for a lot of people. And like I said, no downside.
There's actually a free app that I've used called the Tapping Solution, and you can pay for it, but I choose not to pay for it, and I still get a lot of good content. They have meditations and guides saying tap here as they're speaking, and there's some that are designed to be free for veterans and people suffering from intense amounts of trauma. So you have to tap.
Nice. Would you share that?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Tapping Solution.
I can at least
definitely. Yeah, they have a lot of free videos on the website for Tapping Solution. And I recently found a practitioner that uses tapping in her weight loss programs. So she's like, my body is optimal and I'm healthy. So
nice.
Yeah, it is
definitely worth checking out.
It's kind of a meditation practice. But
awesome.
we'll get the link for the notes.
Yeah, I do body scan meditations at the beginning of every session.
I like doing that.
So, cool. Thank you.
Well, cool. There's always so many things that feed in. I always am interested to hear how practitioners use all the different modalities and how it works for them. And hear about new things like, did you hear about tapping? There was one about something in the water that I still I don't remember because I need to research it.
Something in the water?
It was like cuddling in the water, and it's called, it has a name, and I didn't research it. But
want to do that.
Yeah, it's out there. Yeah, so
Somebody said that to me recently. They sent me a message. They ended up being inappropriate, but was that person? Maybe it wasn't that person. I don't remember. Anyway, I mean, I've done bathtub cuddles. You know, or gotten in the bathtub with a client,
Really?
fully clothed, you know, in like basketball shorts and a t-shirt.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did one session in the hot tubs just because it was a private place to be. And at the end, I suggested, well, let's kind of get in the water because I've never really done it. We could try it. You can say no. And it turned this whole session completely awkward and kind of put a sour ending on it. I'm really sad that I did that. But I didn't know because I'd never done it. And I was thinking, well, we're here. We should try it.
I love, Mary, that you said that, because I think that creativity, that curiosity is so important in these sessions with people, because you don't know. I did a tandem cuddle with someone, with a longtime client, and they brought in another cuddler and we did a tandem session. It was fucking awkward. Is weird. I may do it again, but I would do it with somebody I know. And I had talked to this woman. We had a conversation and I told her my style and she was like, yeah, okay. And it just it felt so weird when I left.
We try stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you get experience.
Yep. Every fail is a win.
That's right. It all leads toward our knowledge.
Right.
Well, we're heading out to our time pretty soon. So I just wanted to maybe give you a chance to, what would be your message to people who are still on the fence about cuddling? Like, what would you tell them? Yeah,
I would tell them there's only one way to find out whether it's for you or not, and that would be to talk to somebody. Reach out to a practitioner and talk to them to see if it would benefit you, because not all modalities, not all therapies are going to help. Like I said, you know, people who ruminate can't utilize aren't often able to utilize cognitive behavioral therapy. Not everybody. This isn't the, you know, win all for everyone, cuddle therapy. So I would say talk to someone.
Yeah. Plus all therapists are different. So like Mare, what would you say to somebody if they're on the fence about cuddling?
Yes. Good question. You know, not every practitioner is suited for every client. So, you know, if you have someone that you don't think is a good fit for you, send them to your colleague. That I get a lot of my clients that way. Someone else was like, can you see this client? I'm not feeling it. And yeah, it works out. It can work out, you know. Let's support each other and keep, you know, our community going as much as we can.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. In fact, I really like the idea that not one therapy fits all, not one practitioner fits all. And throughout your life, it shifts. So what works for me when I'm 20 doesn't necessarily work for me in my 30s, based on my lifestyle, my children, my adaptations. I definitely meant to touch on being a mom and a cuddler more, Jasmine. We'll have to do that at some point, because I really enjoy and resonate with the fact that we both work through some things with that. And there's a whole different set of challenges there. But regarding people that are on the fence about cuddling, again, I think getting curious, Jasmine, that's something you touched on earlier, getting curious and asking, well, what is it about cuddling that makes you uncomfortable? That's something I don't do in my current practice. I'm very prone to the elevator speech of, well, I'm offering, you know, exceptions for who you are now. The session can look different for each person, you know, and just talking a little bit about the goals of cuddle therapy and some of the alternative therapies that I personally enjoy. And like you ladies said, if it's not for you, you can try it and don't have to, you know, do it again.
Yeah, that's why I like to know a little bit about all the different modalities, so I can be like, have you looked into this? Because I can introduce you to it. If you want more, go find someone who really does it. 100%. I love doing that. But actually, Crystal, I think we have a couple more minutes if you do want to. Let's talk about being a mom and a cuddler, because I know that's close to both of your hearts, Jasmine and Crystal, for sure.
I'm a mom, but mine is grown.
Okay.
Love that. Thank you for sharing, Mare. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my first question for both Mare and for Jasmine, and I've seen a little bit of your post, Jasmine, so I recognize some of the things that you may be feeling regarding this, but how easy was it to come out of the cuddle closet to your children? I mean, I think that my children, I really respect them. I want them to know who I am. I don't want to hide from them, but I'd love to hear either that story from either of you, or, you know, how you're feeling about coming out of the cuddle closet.
Mar, would you like to go first?
Well, it wasn't hard for me. Everyone knows that I'm a very cuddly person and that I'm very like witchy and into alternative therapies of all different kinds. So when I started cuddling professionally, I just shouted it from the rooftops, you know, I told everyone. And
I love that.
My Reiki mentor was just like, of course you are. My son, he's used to getting all the cuddles, you know, that he needs from me. So he was just like, okay, whatever. It wasn't weird to him at all, but you know, he didn't care.
I love that.
Yeah. For me, coming out of the cuddle closet, you know, I'd already been doing it for about 1.5 years. And I came out once I left Pasadena to fly back to DC. I went on Facebook, said, just finished cuddle, blah, blah, blah. Okay, off in the plane. 6.5 hours later. I was like, okay, what everyone's saying, it was mixed reviews.
I do.
There were mixed reviews. What are you doing? Are you fucking kidding me? Get back to construction. Oh my God, I've heard about this. You're fucking doing this? Like, it was all sorts of stuff. Do I remember? I remember my friend telling me, don't bring this up at this party, okay?
Oh.
Noted. Won't do it.
I'm handing out my business cards, girl.
Yeah.
And do I remember my kids? I did talk to them, but you know, with children, you only tell them how much they want to know. You only tell them about what they ask in an age appropriate way. So it was kind of like, you know, crumbs at first. I touch people for a living. I give them hugs. They called me a touch specialist or a touch therapist, or, you know, they've used all sorts of words. There's one actually, it was a picture on, I forget the name of the game. It's a game that's on the Fire Stick called Crossy Road, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, one of the characters is a guy with a sign over him that says free hugs. And they were like, look, my mom. I was like, oh, I love it.
I really love that. And I'm really grateful to hear both of your shares. And I think that it is it makes a lot of sense, Jasmine, what you're saying. I know my children were relatively young when I started. I mean, it was almost 5 years ago. They're 12 now. So they were in that, like, really just no idea. So breadcrumbs is the way it had to be. I think for me and my kids, the thing that we talk about a lot, and the thing that I really promote a lot in my practice and in Pittsburgh, is consent. The idea, the power dynamics that people don't even see, that are invisible, and just recognizing that a maybe is not a yes. And so the kids like to tease me a lot at this juncture, because just like you guys are, just like Mare specifically, I am an attack hugger. I love affection. I am very affectionate with my children, and they have, as they're reaching these teenage years, they are so sweet and keen to remind me, Mom, you teach consent. You're going to accept my no. And I'm like, all right, now. All right. I get that.
Maybe they're using your medicine on you.
Awesome. Of course. And so my son and I, this is the affection we get, is fist bumping now. And he's so sweet and kind and does still hug me, but I honor his choices, and it's a challenge. I'll be candid. He is teaching me more than I have ever done.
Yeah.
So I love that, but they're very accepting.
The same with mine. What you say about you and your son, the fist bump, my kids were like that. They're older now. They're 17, 14, and 11. So they are all super cuddly and hug, and everybody wants loves and kisses and hugs, but only on their terms, right?
Exactly.
When my son came back, I don't think he'll mind me telling everybody, but I'll be conscientious of it. But yeah, he still loves hugs and kisses, and he'll let me kiss him real quick before I drop him off at school. He'll be like, all right, love you, Mom. You know, but they're really sweet kids. I'm pretty lucky. You know, and also one more thing, I went into my son, this was a few years ago when he was in 1st or 2nd grade. It was professional day something like that, where the parents come in and talk about the work they did. So I
Wow.
put on my Cuddlist shirt, went in there with my teddy bear, talked to his second grade class, and we talked about consent and boundaries, yes and no. I had them stand up and practice doing, I'm sure you all have seen it, hi, would you like a hug, a smile, a handshake, a fist bump, or a dance? And they all took turns doing it. Talking about ways that they do like to be touched, ways that they don't like to be touched. I gave the example that I would get spankings and I didn't like it. My brother would sometimes beat me up and I didn't like it. And the other kids would stand up and say, yeah, I don't like it when my brother pushes me down off the couch, or, whatever it might be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible. Teach them young. Teach them.
I agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, let's get them early before they think it's weird.
Yeah. No more side eyes. Like,
yeah. Well, that's a learned behavior, because children, 2-year-olds, they want to have hugs or they don't. It's not like it's weird or not. It just is or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree, there's a whole culture shift, and there's a lot of people that are understanding consent a lot better nowadays. And so just educating youth, I think that is one of my personal goals, is to be able to offer consent workshops, or at least the training for people that work with kids, or the training for people that, going into classrooms and things and talking with kids about. I think that would be really ideal.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you did that for career day. I love hearing
career day. That's what it was. I said professional day, but that's what it was. Career day.
Love that.
One of the teachers recognized me that following Halloween. She's like, "Hey, aren't you the lady that cuddles people who came in? You're mom." And I was like, "Yep, that's me." She's like, "Oh my God, all the teachers, we were all talking about it." So I was like, "Sweet." Spread the word.
Cool.
Yeah, so cool. Well, is there anything else that remains to be said before we move on to kind of our closing down ending about all the stuff we've been talking about? Anything that you guys didn't get to say that you want to say?
Maybe we could touch on, Jasmine, what does the future hold for you, or for your cuddle business, or for Tangé Wellness? Anything on the rise or on the horizon?
On the horizon, continuing to promote touch and affection, boundaries and consent, putting together a in-person certification program out here on the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic. That's something
I'm really excited to hear that.
Fear has held me back from releasing the past couple of years. I've written it all out. I'm just waiting to get the courage to let it go.
I would love to send you that courage. I would love to support that in any way I can. Even just saying the words, you got this. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good for you.
Besides that, I hope to start training people and hiring people to come in, maybe starting off as contractors, and hopefully, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, being able to offer insurance and become W-2s and make it, I don't want to use that word, make it what's another word? The word that's coming to mind is,
Sanctioned.
One more time.
Sanctioned.
I was thinking legitimate, but
it is legitimate, but not sanctioned by the popular culture. Yes.
Just where someone could make a living doing this, get their taxes paid, offer insurance. That's a big undertaking. I did that with my construction company. I know what's involved. And it's a lot, but it's something that I'd like to do, to start this to become a more regularly accepted thing, not just for the people who are into hugging and who are touchy-feely people who maybe already do yoga or get massages, but for the people who are like, hell no, but let me just check out what's going on over here.
Yes. That is exactly how I feel. That there's a lot of people that don't get their needs met, and those are the people I want to reach. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I see myself working on and focused in on. Yeah.
That's great. I also wanted to mention something that didn't quite come up, that I have observed that you have been doing very well, Jasmine, is just bringing our community together, like figuring out what you want to do and then bring people in to do it, like doing co-working sessions or starting your running group, or I don't even know what all you're doing, but I love that you do stuff like that and just bring people together. So I wanted to
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's one of my natural gifts. I naturally just want to bring people together, and all of us get together. I'm a social person, an extrovert. I get high off of these kind of interactions. I'm going to turn this off and be like, yeah, all day. I was talking to 4 different people today.
Yes. Well, tell us where we can contact you and where people in this audience watching can get a hold of you.
Best place to go is my website, www.tangewellness.com. And then from there at the top of my, I guess at the header, you can find all my social media. I'm mostly on Instagram, and that immediately posts to Facebook. I'm on TikTok, I'm tweeting more, and of course, LinkedIn. And did I forget any? YouTube. I have some YouTube videos as well. That's another thing I want to get going more of, YouTube videos. I've been told quite a few times, you need more on there. I'm like, all right, let me add it to the list.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, how are we all feeling? How are you feeling, Jasmine, after talking with us today?
Hi, Hezekiah. Feeling great, and lots of gratitude, appreciation. Oh, it's so beautiful to talk to like-minded people who are doing the same thing I'm doing. This camaraderie that I experience from talking to you all is something that I cherish. You know, the first time I felt it was at Cuddle Sanctuary, where I met, you know, Jean and Keely and Faye and Lisa and all the other people who were there, just learning about it, not with the intention of practicing, just learning about it. Yeah, it's the same thing, this camaraderie, this, hey, we're the same. We're all doing it.
Wonderful. That's something I love about the cuddle community and everybody in here. Like, this is not a competition. There's so much for everybody. It's infinite in the cuddle world, and we all help each other and we all support each other. I love it. Thank you. Thank you all for being here for this. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of gratitude.
Thank you, everyone.
And we do have a favorite cuddle position, right? Jasmine, you want to share with us?
Would you like me to show you with George?
Yes. Oh, this is what I was waiting for.
This is our cuddle of the episode. Go for it.
Give me just a moment. All right.
Yeah, we like to share a cuddle of the episode, so maybe it'll be something you guys haven't tried before. You might want to try it if it looks fun.
Oh, you probably have tried it.
I don't know.
There's nothing new going on here.
All
right.
I like to be reminded of oldie goodie ones too.
Oldies but goodies. Okay, good. Because that's what you're getting. Okay, can you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm projecting my voice. So my 2 favorites are, of course, Mama Bear, Baby Bear. Who doesn't love that? Go like this. There we go. And most people put their hands like this, but then this is where I was talking about my legs. You know, I take my legs, I wrap them around them like this. And so now my thighs are squeezing them. So they're feeling nice and tight. And then I do, you know, I don't know if you can see it, but I massage the forehead. I come down, do lymphatic drainage massage. This is a good one. I have them turn their head like this, and I take my arm. You have to be a little bit more careful, obviously, with women and breasts, but put their hand across, my arm across, and I take my fist and I run it from their shoulder up, like I had mentioned, to the base, and then continue up and then massage like that and come back down. And a lot of people really love that. You can feel their body just relax. I talked to a therapist who, Larry Keeley. He's based out of somewhere in Southern California. And this is something that he does. We had a long conversation about touch, since so many psychotherapists don't touch their clients. Yep. He keeps a massage bed in his office, or table, I should say. And he does these different massages, and one of them, or different touches, one of them is at the base. And that's one area when he's dealing with somebody, I think he specializes in sexual trauma, that is one of the ways that he helps them relax, is by applying pressure to the base of the skull. The next is going to be back here. This is what he does. I don't do this. where the kidneys are. He feels to see if the kidneys are tight, raised underneath. And if they are, then he applies pressure. And then finally to the stomach. And like we had mentioned before, this is a very vulnerable area. So, but I thought that was very interesting. And so I've incorporated what I can into my own practice. And that's where this comes from.
Interesting.
I love
The next one is going to be lap of luxury, because I do love that. Again, I have got a good sized leg, so most people can really use it as a pillow and wrap their bodies around. It's usually like this. And then after a few minutes of rubbing their back here and, you know, rubbing their arm and touching them, I'll take my leg and place it over them like this to add that additional pressure. Or sometimes, you know, I'll just move my leg, my foot back and forth. And that's the same thing in other positions. If we're forking, you know, I'll take my leg and rub their leg or feet, just to do additional types of touch.
Jasmine, thank you so much for sharing. First off, your space is beautiful. Your sloth is beautiful. Is that a sloth?
That is a sloth, yes.
He or she is beautiful. They are beautiful.
My old office mate's children named him George, so it's just kind of stuck.
I love it. I love it.
Do you guys remember that old Looney Tunes cartoon where like, I will hug him and squeeze him and call him George?
Yes.
Is that where it came from?
It's the best. I definitely love that one and very much resonated with it. And people did say, yes, that's you, Mom. Or yes, that's you. Well, you see who said it. We do encourage all of our listeners to try these poses, to try these positions, and to find safe, consensual partners when you do so. I do want to say thank you, of course, to everyone who's here today. I'm going to mention real quick, Nurtured Nerds does some wonderful promotions. You can find us at nurturednerds.com, facebook.com/nurturednerds. Instagram, Discord server, and Twitch stream are kind of being in the works. We've been working on those for a while, but we've got some things going on. You can always email us to get registered or started if you're not on one of those at nurturednerdsnewbies, and newbies is spelled NEWBIES @gmail.com. And we do have some meetups as well on Nurtured Nerds, and most of those are online, although we do have some interest in having some in-person ones. We always have that raffle going on for new members, so please, you know that this is a free opportunity to connect and find community. And I would like to congratulate our last winner, Sunshine, who I know from the wonderful state of Pennsylvania. So very, very excited.
Congratulations. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, are we feeling nurtured?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely.
You can invite us all to put your arms out if it feels right and give yourself a big hug. And as we always like to remind ourselves, put all the yummy goodness you put into hugging other people into yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
So
you.
lovely. So
Thank
lovely
you.
to meet
All right. Out. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody. Jasmine's so fun.
Yeah.